My name is Adam, and I live in Georgia, not far from the Alabama state line. A few summers ago, I drove out to a small town in Alabama for a 4th of July cookout hosted by my college friend Antoinette. It was one of those backyard gatherings with paper plates, cheap fireworks, and way too much food. Honestly, it was one of the best nights I'd had in a long time. There were great people, a fun atmosphere, and kids playing with sparklers, all the good stuff. I didn't head out until a little after 10, which, looking back now, was probably my first mistake. That area of the state becomes really quiet after the sun sets. The drive back was going to take a little more than 2 hours. Most of the trip was back roads, long, empty 2-lane stretches surrounded by thick trees on both sides. Once in a while, I'd pass an old farmhouse or a small church with a gravel parking lot, but mostly it was just darkness surrounding me. I had the music turned down low, and I was still feeling good from the party. But I'll admit, there's something about driving through areas like that at night that always creeps me out, even if there's no reason to feel scared. I've always had a slight fear of the dark, and I'm sure that has something to do with it. Around 30 minutes into the drive, I noticed a pair of headlights in my rearview mirror. At first, I didn't think anything of it. I figured someone else had just gotten on the same back road. But the longer the car stayed behind me, the more I started paying attention. It was a gray Nissan Altima. That alone wasn't odd, except the bottom half of the car looked like it had been driving through a lot of mud. Every time we passed under an overhead light at a small crossing, I could see it clearly. Still, that by itself wasn't too strange. But after a while, I realized no matter how I adjusted my speed, the car stayed with me. At first, I assumed it might just be a coincidence. So I increased my speed a bit, maybe by 5 to 10 miles per hour, but the Altima did too. Then I lightly tapped the brakes and dropped well below the speed limit. Again, same result. The car didn't change position. On roads like that, it's normal for drivers to pass each other. In most places out there, it's not even against the law. I shifted slightly to the right a couple of times to signal that they could pass if they wanted, but they didn't take the opportunity. They just stayed exactly where they were, about 6 or 7 car lengths behind me. That's when I decided to try something out. There was a random left turn up ahead. It led onto what looked like a small residential road with maybe 4 homes spaced out on both sides. I turned left without thinking twice. I just wanted to get away from that car. Roughly 10 seconds later, the same car turned left as well, right there in the middle of nowhere. There was basically no chance they had any reason to be on that road. That's when I became completely sure they were following me. There wasn't any doubt left in my mind. I felt a horrible sensation in my stomach, like I was in serious trouble. And for all I knew, I probably was. At that point, my heart was pounding like it would if someone was pointing a gun at me. I'm not sure why, but that's the best comparison I can make. I felt completely helpless out there in the middle of nowhere. I didn't know what that person wanted or why they were tailing me, but every possibility I imagined only made me more afraid. I just wanted to reach a safe and public place with lights and people around. Right on cue, I heard that awful sound that warns your gas tank is almost empty. I swear, I've never felt more helpless than in that moment. My car is old, a 2012 Corolla that's had more than its fair share of issues. Sometimes the gas light gives me 20 miles, and other times I'm lucky to get 10. And in that part of the state, gas stations aren't exactly everywhere. I pulled out my phone and searched for the closest 24-hour station. The nearest one was more than 8 miles away. I didn't know if I could make it, but I didn't really have a choice. There was no way I was going to stop, not with that car still behind me. I thought about calling the police, but I didn't think they'd be able to do much way out there. cops in that area can take forever to respond, and part of me felt like calling them would make everything feel even more real. I know it probably sounds silly, and I feel kind of embarrassed even admitting that, but I want to be honest about what I felt. A few minutes later, the gas needle dropped all the way to empty, not just low. I tried to keep calm, but I could feel myself starting to panic. Every little sound my car made seemed louder than usual. The road felt like it was stretching on endlessly. I felt ridiculous for being so powerless, but I had no clue how to fix it. I was sure I wouldn't reach the gas station. My mind kept running through all the things that might happen if my car stalled. But somehow I finally saw the glowing sign of a gas station up ahead. Honestly, I nearly cried from relief. I took the turn sharply and pulled into the lot as quickly as I could, hoping to buy myself time to get inside. And that's exactly what I did. I leapt out of the car and ran inside, barely bothering to shut the door behind me. From inside the store, I could still see the Altima through the window. It slowed to a stop at the edge of the lot and just sat there for about 10 seconds, engine still running. No one got out. It seemed like whoever was inside was trying to decide whether or not to keep following me. Then out of nowhere, the car sped off quickly and disappeared back down the road we'd come from. I told the guy working in the gas station what had happened, and he offered to call the police. Even after speaking to the police, I still felt deeply unsettled. I know it's not the most terrifying thing that's ever happened to someone, but there's no explanation that doesn't involve that driver having bad intentions. That feeling of intense fear, I really hope I never go through that again. I made it home safely and promised myself I'd never take back roads late at night again. But the story didn't end there. A few weeks later, something else happened that made my stomach sink again. I was sitting at home one evening with the news on. It was really just background noise, when a segment caught my attention. It was about 2 men wanted for armed robbery, attempted murder, and other crimes in rural Alabama. They showed a blurry security camera image and mentioned the suspects were believed to be driving a stolen gray Nissan Altima, last seen heading east. The moment I heard that, I froze. I knew without a doubt that was the car that had followed me. I felt it in my gut. I couldn't prove it was the same person who had followed me that night. But I'm telling you, I knew. The timing fit, the area lined up, and the car description matched almost perfectly. I went to the police right away to share my story, and that's when it all really hit me. My hesitation might have allowed 2 extremely dangerous people to get away. I can't forgive myself for not calling the police sooner, and I still think about it often. I never got any updates from the authorities, and I haven't seen any follow-up reports on the news. If anything new comes up, I'll be sure to share an update.